Welcome to the Conscious Living Podcast, conversations to educate, empower, and enlighten our world. An uplifting and inspiring series of conversations and talks with your host, Jackie Woodside. We are educating minds, empowering lives, and enlightening souls to create a world where love prevails. In this engaging podcast, we deliver exciting, positive, transformative talks and teachings designed to elevate your life. Now, let's join our host, Jackie Woodside, for this week's session.
Hi, everybody. Jackie Woodside here for another episode of the Conscious Living Podcast, where we are here to educate, empower, and enlighten our world. Thank you so much for your energy and commitment, your passion around helping our world be a more vibrant, conscious, and engaged world for each and every one of us. I'm really happy today to spend time with someone who I consider to be not only a dear colleague, but a dear friend and role model. Ellen Finkelstein and I are part of a larger networking and support group, I guess, professionally, and have done a number of things together. It's really always just so eye-opening for me to spend time with Ellen because she's been an entrepreneur for so long and has this really unique way of blending consciousness and conscious living with her work as the founder of Change the World Marketing. What an interesting title, right? Doesn't that pique your curiosity right away? Change the World Marketing. So Ellen Finkelstein, welcome to our show today. There's so many positive things I could say about you, but welcome, and why don't you say a few more things to help our listeners get to know you?
Well, first, I wanted to thank you for having me and tell you that I actually feel the same way about you. I really enjoy listening to you and seeing how you integrate your business and the whole concept of conscious living. So that's really been a joy to experience that.
Beautiful.
So I help online entrepreneurs get their knowledge out to the world in various ways. One of the things I'm focusing on right now is email marketing, but I also help people market their courses and their programs and build an audience so that whatever knowledge they have, and the whole idea is that I attract clients who do want to change the world, who want to have a positive effect on the world, so that it really what I do is vicariously I help change the world through them.
Nice. Yeah. I mean, somebody's got to be there to support all of these change makers and get the word out, right? Out to the world. So I'm just so grateful for the work that you do in supporting teachers and speakers like myself who are out there wanting to change the world. So Ellen, clearly you have a passion and a commitment around conscious living and therefore your experience of Change the World Marketing, your commitment there. Tell us a little bit about that. How did you decide to blend your passion and your commitment around conscious living and marketing? What was the road that got you there?
Well, we could go pretty far back. When I was 19, I'm 70 now.
Oh, wow. Are you really?
I am.
Amazing.
I started transcendental meditation when I was in college, along with a whole bunch of people at that time. It was a big boom. And Maharishi was going around the world, but also he was in the United States quite often. And so I started in 1971. So it's a little more than 50 years now that I've been practicing TM. And I did teach TM as a full-time job for a while. But then my husband actually taught, he's just retired not too long ago from Maharishi International University in Fairfield, Iowa. And so while he was doing that, I needed to find some way to supplement his income. And I started off I needed to work at home. I had little kids. I started by writing books for major publishers. And then I discovered I could build an audience and write my own ebooks and publish them myself. Instead of getting 10% royalty on the wholesale price, I could get 97% of the retail price. And so I started doing that and then teaching other people. People asked how I was doing that. So that's really how Change the World Marketing.com happened. It was actually the website that I created to teach other people how to support themselves in this small little town in Fairfield, Iowa.
Wow, that's fantastic. So you mentioned starting a meditation practice called TM back when you were 19 years old and 70 being 70 now, that is a long time. A couple things about that. First of all, that's stunning, and I honor your commitment and your integrity to that practice. So many people that I work with, in kind of the early phases of conscious living say, oh, I just want to be a meditator. I've tried that. I just can't do it. I'm like, that's why they call it a practice. Of course you can't do it. So could you just say a little bit about TM? Maybe people don't know what that is. So what is TM, Maharishi, and as the teacher and founder of TM? And then let's bring that into, your business and your life. Why be a long-term meditator? What does it do for you? And how does that correlate to both your business and to living life consciously?
So I think the unique thing about TM is, number one, that it's easy, and number one, that it's not contemplation. So it's it's a mantra meditation. There's a meaningless sound that you use in a very effortless way. And so that's one of the specialties of it, is that it's really easy to practice. Even children can do it. Even people who are very stressed out, like, for example, in prisons, they've taught it in prisons, or people with PTSD, or is another group of people they've been teaching it to. So it's very easy to do. And the purpose of it is not so much for the experience you have in those 20 minutes twice a day, but what happens afterwards, how it integrates afterwards. And Maharishi used to give an analogy of the way they used to dye cloth in India before there were color fast dyes. Mm-hmm. And so you would put the cloth into a vat of color, and then you would hang it up and fade it in the sun. It would fade. And then you would put it back in a second time, and then it would fade, but a little bit more would remain. And you kept on doing that until the color didn't fade. And so when you meditate, the mind settles down, you're experiencing pure consciousness, and you go to finer, 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 transcend the finest level of the mantra and experience pure consciousness. And when you come out, most of that pure consciousness is gone. But as you keep on doing it over time, more and more of it remains. And so that's the whole, what you were talking about, integrating it. And that's the whole thing, is that the amount that you've integrated is there with you all the time as you're acting. And so it's an experience of having some silence in the midst of dynamic activity.
Do you want to say more?
Well, I wanted to talk about business. You wanted me to connect it a little bit to my business.
Before we go on to that kind of second half of the question, just a few things I want to deepen a little bit. First of all, you've used the phrase TM multiple times, so I just want to say that stands for Transcendental Meditation.
Right.
And for people who are perhaps newer to the thought of meditation, there are many different types of meditation,
right,
many different types of meditation practices that you can explore and be trained in and learn. So transcendental meditation is one of the many types of meditation, and it was founded by an Indian man. I don't want to say his name wrong. Maharishi.
So Rishi means seer. Maha means great. That was given to him by his teacher. So Maharishi, and then Mahesh Yogi.
Okay. So that was one thing I wanted to just expand on. So if people are curious or interested, just to flesh that out a little. And then you said something else that, again, I just don't want to assume people know what this means. It's a mantra meditation where you use a sound that has no meaning per se.
Yes.
So that's the second thing I wanted to go in a little more. And can you say more about that? And then there's a couple more things I can pick up on before we go to the business piece.
Sure. So when you think thoughts, whether in activity, maybe quietly, or in meditation, closing your eyes, and they have a meaning, you're thinking about something, then that would be contemplation. And contemplation is good. It's a good thing, but it keeps the mind on that surface level of activity because it's activity.
The mind is active. Yeah.
Right.
So I'm not even sure. I think I would distinguish what you just said. Like contemplation is also a type of spiritual practice in kind of more the monastic tradition, where you specifically contemplate a spiritual passage or a spiritual word or high vibration word. I think what you're referring to is more what I would just call mental chatter. Like the mind is active. It's
Well, no, either way. I mean, I was talking about a type of meditation that is contemplation, because I was
contemplation.
trying to
Okay.
compare it like the monastic tradition would be a good example of where you might take a phrase and contemplate on that phrase, right? And so when you use a meaningless sound, there's no meaning there to keep the mind active on thinking about the meaning and
About
what
that
it
thing.
means,
Right, right, right. It's no longer,
right?
the
And
goal
so
is
as
an activity of the mind.
Right, right. And so what happens is, as long as the mantra is used properly, which is in an effortless way, the mind naturally goes to a field of greater happiness, because that's how we're built. Basically, you all want more happiness, but it's even a physiological thing and a mental thing. So the mind just settles down automatically. And when the mind settles down, the body settles down, because the mind and body are connected. And so the body also gets deep rest as well. And that part of what people might hear about TM is that it releases stress, and it's through this process of the body getting deep rest from the practice that, we all know rest is healing. The doctor tells you to get rest when you're sick. So that's a mechanism in the body, that the body heals itself when it gets rest. And so that happens in TM. Certainly that's been proven many times, because there's been a lot of scientific research done on TM. And so that helps with the release of stress, which is another way you can look at how you're feeling better afterwards in activity, less stress. So just another side. You can look at it from the mental side, or the consciousness side, or the physical side.
Yeah. There's so many levels that meditation is so good for us. And of course, leads us to live life more consciously, which is one of the other things that you said just in passing that was so profound, is that TM is not the goal, but the design of TM, you said, is to lead you into the experience of pure consciousness. And I'm just wondering, I love that you were a TM instructor. That's really amazing, Ellen. So I'm wondering, from a TM perspective, what does that actually mean to have the experience of pure consciousness?
Sure. So first of all, there are other words that people might be familiar with that they might have heard. So samadhi is a direct one. Nirvana is another one. So there are others, but maybe those are the most common. So we are conscious. We all know that if you're awake, you're conscious, but we're usually conscious of something.
Okay.
So as the mind settles down using the mantra, less and less and less, and then goes beyond the finest state of the mantra, what's left is just pure consciousness. It's not that the consciousness wasn't there before, but as everything, all that mental chatter, all that activity settles down, what's left is just consciousness, pure awareness, wakefulness, something like whatever word you want to use.
Pure being.
Yes, pure being.
Presence.
Yes, that's a great word for it.
Yeah. I love my meditation practice as well. I was also trained in TM and am a TM practitioner. Then the other thing you said was something about 20 minutes. So, one of the things I hear from people a lot is, I don't have time for, meditation, and I don't, I can't fit that into my schedule. So tell me about the thought with TM and the 20 minutes of meditation.
The general practice for adults is 20 minutes twice a day, in the morning when you wake up, and then after work. And the idea is that the morning meditation is preparation for your day's activity, and the evening meditation is preparation for your evening's activity. There's a couple of minutes after that you want to come out slowly, because the body's very deep. You don't want to kind of jerk it out into activity. But basically, we think 20 minutes twice a day.
And what's the thought behind that? Is that's kind of the time that it takes to get to deep rest, or to pure consciousness?
So not specifically. The experiences in meditation will vary from day to day, depending on the state of your mind and your body. And you could get to pure consciousness several times in that 20 minutes. So it just depends. But I think longer than that, I felt to be a burden. I mean, there were people who were meditating longer, and it just seemed like it was just too much. When children start, they do a lot less than that.
Yes.
So it just seemed like a good time that pretty much anyone could fit into their schedule without it being a burden.
Yeah. I remember hearing about that. In fact, I asked my TM teacher, I'm just really getting into this deep, restful place at right before 20 minutes. Can I meditate for 30? And he said no. It's like, fine, then. I better hurry up and get it to pure consciousness sooner. And I want to affirm what you said. We about children. We were trained in TM as a family. Went to the TM Center of DC, and my son was, I don't know, 12 or 13. And we meditated we did before everybody scattered. He's in boarding school now, but we meditated every morning together on the couch every morning before we all went off to our daily activities. So it was really, really good for him. And he still practices the deep breathing. And no, I don't think he gets up in the morning as a teenager in the dorm and meditates by himself, but I certainly still do. So
That's
let's
very
go to
good.
that
Very
next.
cool.
Yeah. So it was really a wonderful experience for our family. Let's make that next leap then. And, even Google and Apple now, they have like meditation rooms in their corporate centers. It's becoming kind of like a thing, if you will, in Silicon Valley. What's your understanding? I mean, that's what, 50 some years that you've been
50.
meditating?
Yeah, 52.
So,
Almost 52.
Yeah, 52 years. So what's had you stay with it, Ellen? And what benefit do you see, first of all, in your life? And then let's carry that into your business as well.
Sure. So I didn't grow up with a lot of self-confidence. I don't really know why. It wasn't anything my parents did especially, but I didn't feel like I had a lot of self-confidence. And the friend of mine who introduced it to me, I still remember her words because they were so powerful for me. She wanted me to go to this introductory lecture about it. She said, "It makes you happy and you don't have to believe in it." And that was like all she said. And I went, I want it.
That's so funny.
Yeah. And to me, that you don't have to believe in it meant that there was some objective, truth to it. And I wanted to be happier. So that was enough for me. And I feel like why I continued with it. I got benefits from it. Yeah. I didn't get benefits instantly. And I certainly didn't feel most people have good experiences in meditation fairly quickly, but I didn't. It took a while. But I did get result within about a month. I started to really feel lighter and less constricted and a little happier. And that was very welcome. So I just stuck with it.
Wow, good for you. And what about in business?
So it's hard for me to describe how meditating, and I think your audience will understand this instinctively kind of, but it's hard to put words to how having the experience of pure consciousness, bringing it into activity, how that brings you to activity that helps the world. There's definitely a connection, but I'm having a little bit of a hard time saying why. But I would certainly say that once you realize that everybody has this pure consciousness inside them that you have, and that it's an experience of bliss and happiness, that everybody has that, it's sort of like, why are people so angry?
And today, why are we so divided? If we all have
Yeah.
this spark of, if you will, divinity inside of us, this spark of pure consciousness inside of us, why is everybody so divided?
Right. And so you certainly see that there's something that unifies humanity. I guess maybe just from that experience, I'm trying to put words to this. And so when I did start a business, which started off with writing computer books at home because my kids are really little, and then figuring out how I could write my own books, as I mentioned, and just learning how to do that, and then starting to teach others, I wanted definitely to attract people who were in that same, they didn't have to be meditators, of course, nothing like that, but I wanted people who were going to be putting out knowledge that was going to, change the world, make the world a better place. Those were the kinds of people that I wanted to be with. And so that was how I decided to use that name.
Wow. And how long have you been with that business, Change the World Marketing?
So I think I started that business in 2011, I think, around. I had a little course in my living room with 11 people, and I taught them how to create a website and how to blog and how to have it start an email list, just like that.
That's fantastic. I love it. I love it. And it is such a contribution to our world and to living more consciously. So anything more about, I guess, I'm curious, Ellen, to hear about your, as an entrepreneur and your path of living life consciously. So you have your meditation practices. What does it mean to you to live life consciously? And then what other practices do you bring into your business and your life? And one of the things I just want to highlight when you get to the business part, I know you send an email every day.
Yes, I do. I'm famous for
and
that.
that you write, that you don't have a copywriter write. And I would just love to hear like where that inspiration comes from. A lot of people who are in the field of email marketing say, I don't know what to write about. And here you are sending one every day. So those are all things I would love you to say more about.
I think that I try to express what I'm living, and a lot, that's the pure consciousness within, but also this feeling that I want to make the world a better place. And I want to express that to other people, and I want to inspire other people to inspire other people. And so I had actually an epiphany a few days ago about email marketing, which was kind of curious because I was thinking, I was feeling a little sad that it sounded like it was all about money.
Yeah.
And I remember, one of my fields of expertise is PowerPoint. And there's this woman, her name is Nancy Duarte. She's a pretty well-known PowerPoint designer. She's written a few books. And she said something like, the purpose of every presentation is to create change or to affect change. So anytime you speak to people, you're trying to change them. You're trying to get them to whatever it could be. Maybe you want them to incorporate some new training that you're giving them, or you want to inspire them to do something, whatever it is. But you always want to uplift the audience and create some progress. And I realized that writing it's not different when you write or when you speak. You're still trying to do the same thing. And then I realized, the purpose of an email is to inspire people, is to affect change, is to help people grow. And it just put a whole different cast on the concept of email marketing. And so I start my emails with a story, usually about something that I've done, and then I connect it to business practices. So today I was, in fact, funnily enough, today is Valentine's Day, and I was talking about Valentine's Day and love. And I was talking about the concept that as an entrepreneur, it's really your job to love your audience, to love the people that buy from you or might buy from you, because it doesn't have to be put in terms of the word love, but to help them. You want to help them. You want to help them grow. You want to inspire them. And the more you do that, the more you convey that you want to help people, the better your business will do, because people experience. And we've all had that experience from someone else that spoke, and we experienced their love or their caring, the fact that they care. We felt like they cared about us. Yeah. And so that's an example. I tell a little story about, something, in this case, Valentine's Day, and then I relate it to their business in that kind of principle. And that way, I'm trying to help uplift them to help their business.
I love that. And I absolutely subscribe to using the word love love the people around you. Love is a level of consciousness. So it's not a sappy emotion on a Hallmark card,
Right.
Love is a way of being. Love is a vibration and a consciousness that we are and that God is. And the more that we can each fall in love and create loving energy in our relationships. I mean, relationships that's all we have, right? Even if it's a exchange like this on a Zoom recording or an exchange on an email, all we have is our relationships. And if we're, the more we're able to center ourselves in being a loving force for good in the world, the more we'll all create a more conscious world where we educate, empower, and enlighten.
There you go. Absolutely.
That's what we're here to do. So I love that. I love that you think about loving the people that are purchasing from you, your customers, whether you're in thought leadership type business, or you're in a brick and mortar business, a restaurant, and serving people in a restaurant or service industry of some type. I think that's fantastic. And I think we can all subscribe to that a little bit more, wherever you are today, wherever you're listening. How can you love people more as one of your paths to conscious living? So anything more? I asked you also about your practices, a meditator for 50 years, 52 years. Is that it? Or do you have other kind of specific ways that you look to bring conscious living and consciousness into your business and your life?
Well, I do some advanced programs. The TM program there are some advanced programs. So I actually spend more than 20 minutes twice a day, because I'm doing not only the 20 minutes of meditation, but I'm doing 2 advanced programs. So it takes quite a bit of time. So there's certainly a time commitment to what I do. And if I have time, I will do pranayama and asanas as well. But I also try to exercise. I feel like having, I think good health is a good part of what we try to do. Release of stress that comes from TM is one thing, but then you want to take active steps to exercise and eat well and love people.
Right? I'm curious, the other practices, are they also meditation techniques, or are they breathing techniques or yoga techniques?
They're meditation techniques. So your eyes are closed, it's silent, you're still, pretty much, yeah. So I would call them meditation techniques.
Different types of meditation. I love that. So meditate, care for your body, feed it well, rest it well, and love people.
There you go.
What a great prescription for conscious living. Ellen, if there are people listening today who just really want to hear about your approach to marketing in business and in life, what's the best way for them to get in touch with you?
So I do have something that I thought would, as we were speaking before about it, might be applicable to a wide range of the people who listen to the podcast. It's called the Write Your Story Worksheet. And I had originally thought of it in the sense of, what are you going to put on your about page? When you speak on a podcast, what's the story that you tell? And so on, like that, in the context of business. But it's actually a very nice self-development technique to think about the things that have happened in your past, maybe some negative things either, and kind of work through them and tell the story. And so I think it's a nice exercise for almost anyone to do that.
Fantastic. Thank you for sharing that with our listeners, Ellen. We really appreciate that. And, thank you for your commitment to living consciously, and for being the person that's really lifting up and supporting people that want to be out there, making a difference, changing the world. So thank you for being my friend, my colleague, and my inspiration in life, and for being our guest on the Conscious Living podcast.
My pleasure. Thank you very much.
All right.